Sorry, Carp, and welcome to another Thailand Tuesday episode here in the Funkit Pod. It's Tuesday. I'm in Thailand. It's Thailand Tuesday time. So yeah, welcome to another Thailand Tuesday episode, like 20 minutes a week, where I quickly talk about what's happening in Thailand here, like not personal, but on a more more personal point of view, and also just answer a few questions that I get via social media. So thanks for this, and also then just share a bit of experience because I've been here for almost a decade now. So I think lots of things happen to me that maybe is going to be interesting for people who think about coming here, people who just moved here maybe before the pandemic and think like, what's life in Thailand like when there's no pandemic and so on. So speaking of pandemic, so of course a quick COVID update here. So now apparently all the vaccination spots for June are already booked for all Thais who want to do it. For foreigners, apparently there's an app being launched or something. I read it yesterday, wherein also foreigners can request to be vaccinated. Apparently also foreigners will be able to receive the vaccine for free. I don't know which vaccine though. So that's all I read. Apparently there's also a vaccination station, being set up at Bang Sue train station, the new main train station in Bangkok. But it's again also just something that I read on a website yesterday. So let's see about this. The numbers are still going up, but we're opening up more. So since Monday, this week, we're now allowed to dine in again until 9 p.m. Restaurants are allowed to open up to 25% capacity. Parks are still closed though. Outdoor gyms are still gyms are still closed. Outdoor exercise is allowed until 9 p.m. Yeah, that's about it. But yeah, that's it. My Muay Thai gym is still closed, even though it's outdoor. It has a roof, so it doesn't count as outdoor. Damn it. So that's the current situation. Malls and restaurants to 25% open until 9 p.m. Takeaway food allowed until 11 p.m. Parks closed. For the audio listeners, I'm staring at the camera, not moving because we know what that means or like why those rules are in place. Okay, but let's not be sad and think about those times when we were able to walk through a park. Let's go to the mall instead. Let's think about. Let's talk about what else happened in Thailand. And actually, I was looking forward to this podcast this week because something just happened, and actually it just happened today. Actually, I thought about doing a podcast on this topic for a while, and now today something happened that made me go, I have to talk about it right away. So this is now not scripted. This is now really just going off the cuffs because it literally just happened 2 hours ago or so. But it fits very well with what I wanted to talk about here, cultural-wise. So welcome to the Culture Cast for Thailand. So I moved in a new place like in February, I think, February 1st. It's a really cool place. It's nice, it's spacious. I have a room where I can record podcast and so on. So that's cool. And lots of green. I look out the window right now and you might see it like reflecting in the picture behind me if you're watching the video. If not, I'm looking out the window. It's like green trees and so on. It's really nice. So and there are different, of course, it's not a skyscraper condo. So there are, 4 or 5 floors max here. And of course, per floor, there are like 2 or 3 apartments. So now, like a month or 1.5 months after I moved in here, there's like then my downstairs neighbors moved in. And once in a while, they have friends over. Fine. I mean, a bit jealous because I don't have friends, but it's all good. And then they chill by the pool and so on, even though they're not supposed to be there because, not supposed to hang out with like too many people, but whatever, all good. Sometimes they party. Also, no problem. I hear the music from down there, quite loud sometimes, but hey, it's once in a while you can't go out. I sympathize. Again, just jealous because I have friends. It's all good. And this morning, my landlord calls me and says like, "Hey, Sasha, so did you do anything last night?" I'm like, "Oh, what, huh?" And then my landlord says, "Well, your downstairs neighbors, the ones that are right beneath you, they said there was some loud noise, like some rope skipping or exercising or something coming from up there." I'm like, "What?" Actually, yesterday was the first day in forever that I went to bed really early because I was so tired from exercising in the morning. So I went to bed at like 10 or something. So I never go to bed that early usually. So I went to bed really early. So I'm like, no, it wasn't me. I mean, I woke up at 12 at midnight, and I also heard some noises like a rat or something in the roof, or like between the apartments or in the wall or something. But I was like, well, it's Thailand. It happens sometimes. I don't think much about it, right? And then she's like, okay, sure, I'll tell them, no worries. And then a few minutes later, she texts me. So now they say between 8 and 9 p.m., they heard some really loud walking from up there. I'm like, maybe, sorry, put my high heels on. No, what? I was actually, what the hell are they talking about? So yesterday was probably the most quiet day ever for me. Like, I didn't move much. I just stayed home, called people on the phone, like online, worked on my podcast, recorded the MMA Monday podcast, rendered this and so on. So how and it's an old building, but it's an old building. So yeah, you sometimes hear noises there, but the floor is pretty thick. So even if I jump and I would do the rope skipping, you don't hear anything. Like if I actually jump, so it's just ridiculous. So yeah, I said no, whatever. And then my landlord was like, yeah, but by the way, are you annoyed by the noise that's coming from downstairs? And I said, well, I hear it sometimes, and yeah, it's like in the moment I'm like, oh, but it's no big deal because I mean, just let them party once in a while, whatever, no problem. They're having fun, all good for them. So my landlord's like, okay, all fine, whatever. But what I'm going at with this story is, why are they just complaining to my landlord? Even, first of all, and this is not like, believe me, first of all, yesterday, most quiet day the whole year for me. Like usually I exercise at home. Yesterday I even didn't exercise at home. Yesterday I was just being lazy the whole freaking day, or working on the computer, but not moving. So there's no way any sound came out of this apartment. My cats also cannot jump that. I know they're not that heavy. Like if they jump, you wouldn't hear it downstairs, right? So there's nothing. So now I wonder, why are they looking for something to complain about? Like what's with them? Like why? They're the ones making noises. They're the ones like throwing parties, and now they're the ones complaining about me. Don't I like my cats? I don't know. The interesting thing here is though, and this is now where it ties into the Thailand Tuesday. They went to the landlord, right? So they didn't tell me. I mean, they literally could just, and I use literally a lot in this podcast twice already, and not even in the right way. Sorry. So they could have just walked up a flight of stairs, like knocked at the door, like, "Hey, man, yesterday I heard something. I'm not sure what you did there, or was it you? But just in case, it was pretty noisy. Like, what? Could you just check what you did? Like." And I would be like, "Oh, let's look what happened," but nothing happened. So. And now I think they're just trying to find things to complain. I don't know why. But still, like, they're just going to the landlord instead of talking to me. And that's a very typical thing that would happen here in Thailand. Like, usually people don't tell you something to your face if they're not happy with you. It goes like very much around, right? So there's no radical candor here when you have like teamwork, for example. You're not saying like, hey, this wasn't that great, but I can show you how to do it better. Let me help you. It's more like, yeah, good, okay. And then they tell your boss how you screwed up, for example. That happens all the time. There's several reasons for this. One, you don't want like to be controversial. You don't want to fight like physically, verbally with anyone. So confrontations are something that people here in Thailand don't really like. When I moved over here, I had a book called Working with Thais, and it explains very well also like how Thais in the workplace as well try to avoid confrontation. And that's a typical thing that happens in the workplace, that happens when you live in an apartment complex, that happens in relationships. Yeah, also all the time. If you have a Thai girlfriend or you're a foreign girl and you have a Thai boyfriend, or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, if you have a Thai partner, you will face this problem. Yeah, one is saving face by not admitting that you're wrong. That's a big thing in Thailand. Yeah, so no one will admit that they're wrong, usually. There's this very famous example also in one of those books, like when you go out to the street, you ask someone for directions, and they don't know directions, they will still give you directions because they don't want to admit that they don't know the way. So they're like, yeah, sure, just go down that road, even though it's the wrong way or they don't even know about it. Yeah, so because saving face is really important. And then avoiding confrontation is very important, because the society is like very close, right? Walls are thin, for example, and especially in those new condos, walls are pretty thin. So, and it's always very crowded, not during the pandemic, but usually it's very crowded. It's very crowded in the public transport and so on. So you don't have much private space. So you try not to interfere with others in the area. So that's why you try to avoid confrontation quite actively. So then if I would do something that would annoy you, you wouldn't tell me at first. You would keep it to yourself. And eventually maybe you tell it, if I'm your colleague, you tell it to our boss. In a relationship, you tell it to your friend, but not to me if I would be the partner. Or eventually it would just come out, like it just boils up and then it comes out. That's why also here, for example, violence is a thing. Domestic violence is also still a thing, I think. But also violence between students and so on. I think that's also because no one talks about what bothers them. And it's like they take it in, and eventually it explodes, which is just crazy. And we can see this at university with students. I saw that at colleges with students, see it in relationships with friends, now in my apartment as well. So it's like people, if you just won't talk to each other, but it's so easy said because, of course, it's a cultural thing, right? So you cannot be like, hey, man, come on. I'm from the West. I know what works. Change your culture. No, of course not. There are reasons why this also works, right? So why like this saving face works or like this avoiding confrontation works, because this then makes the society, the community work more smoothly for as long as it goes well, that is, of course, right? Everyone lives together smoothly, smiling and so on. And when you have arguments with Thai people, usually, if it's not too problematic, they will forget about it very, very, very soon. They will move on very soon, which is a power that I don't have, unfortunately. And I'm very jealous of that. They can just be mad for a moment and like, oh, okay, I'm mad now. I'm mad at you. Let's move on, which is really cool. So you can see that it also has benefits, this way of thinking, this way of living a life. It's just that I'm the problem by not being able to deal with it in this case. So that's just a very interesting thing that I think you should be aware when you're moving to Thailand and then working, living in the Thai culture, in Thai society. There's also another term that goes hand in hand with this. It's called Kreng. I have also an article about Kreng on my website, mythai.org. Check it out. Maybe I should just link to it from the podcast. Kreng means I am concerned about how you understand things, how my actions make you feel. So I don't wanna enforce my feelings or my needs onto you. Let me give you an example. It makes it easier. So, for example, yesterday I played beach volleyball outdoors, and one of my friends said, "Hey, I don't live next to you, but I live like somewhat closer, like further down the road. But I could just I could make a detour and just drop you off there with my motorcycle." Then Kreng Chai would be, "Hey, thank you, but no, it's not necessary. I don't want you to have some extra work or like drive those extra 10 minutes with the detour. No, thank you. I already have a taxi motorcycle coming. Even if you don't, I already have something. It's okay. Don't worry. I'll just find a way out of it and not have this person drive 10 minutes extra." Me being German, I was like, "Hey man, thanks, cool." But that's an example of Kreng Chai. Yeah, so Kreng Chai means you don't want the other person to have some extra work because of you. Extra time, money wasted, whatever. So that's Kreng Chai. And it fits very well, or this belongs together with like this saving face thing, avoiding confrontation, Kreng Chai. This all plays together when it comes down to how Thai culture, Thai society actually works. And in the beginning, when you move here or when you start living in Thailand, and I did the same thing, and I thought, man, I started cross-cultural communication and whatnot. Yeah, I wrote papers on those things. I understand this, right? So I understand the theory, of course. But even if you studied cross-cultural communication and whatnot, and you understand those theories, once you experience it, you're like, come on, just do it differently. Oh, wait. So you still have the initial reaction of like, that's not how it's supposed to be. You should change. Oh, no, wait, that's my mindset right now. Right? So in the moment, and then you realize, oh, wait, that's my mindset right now. So I have to adjust. Right? It's not the culture has to change. It's like I'm coming into this culture, so I have to understand it. And once you understand it, then you can work with it. now to bring it full, and it really helped me once I understood Kreng Jai, which is a very abstract thing to understand, I think, for us from the West, I believe. So once I understood this, understood that saving face is really important and that this avoiding conflict is really important in Thai culture, I was able to, I think, improve at least my working relationships with colleagues, with Thai colleagues, and so on. Personal relationships, I'm not sure. It still sometimes clashes, of course, but also getting better, I believe. Bringing it back full circle, though, like to the story that I told starting this podcast today, with like my downstairs neighbor just being 5 letters, complaining to the landlord about it. So I understand again why. Still think you could have avoided, because now our relationship is, of course, stressed somewhat. Or I'm like, what the hell is she thinking, or him thinking, whoever complained? And now, of course, there's no real friendly base or anything. So I think, even though I understand where they're coming from and why they didn't talk to me directly, because I look so intimidating, it might not have been the best choice. Plus, of course, I didn't do anything. So them just complaining about something random, it's not a cultural thing. This is not just, can I say bitch? Just a bitch ass thing. They just want to distract from the fact that I think other apartments complained about them, so now they just want to complain about other stuff too. Just like, it's not only us, it's like them too. So I think that's just what's happening here. All right, but back to like wrapping things up with all things Kreng Jai, and saving face and avoiding confrontation. So once you really hear and you work with Thai people, you gotta keep this in mind. It's really crucial. It helped me a lot to understand this. It took a while to understand this. Even if you know about it, you still don't live it, right? You're still like, okay, I heard about it, I know it, I read an article about it on MyThai.org, but it's still not internalized. So you really have to internalize this. You have to, if you have a reaction to a behavior, you're like, stop it, think about it. Is this Kreng Jai? Is it saving face? Is it avoiding confrontation, or is it bitchiness? If you can hold in for a second, think about it, and then make the distinction, and hey, it's still bitchy or it's still stupid or whatever, then go ahead and say, hey man, then go ahead and say, hey man, I think that still doesn't make sense. But first, stop, think about it. Is it me that just thinks that I know everything better, or is it a cultural thing, or is it really something I should be complaining about? Once you have this, this calmness in you that you don't have to react to everything. And very often, like when you're a foreigner, somewhere you try to defend yourself. You're like, no, but that's how we do it, and so on. Yeah, but you're somewhere else right now. So be calm, sit back, relax. Before you react emotionally, just take some time, think about it. Is it saving face? Is it avoiding disruption, so to speak, this discomfort, confrontation? Is it Kreng Jai? If not, okay, then complain. But if yes, then maybe think about it and then rephrase your response a little bit differently. Okay, that's it for today. I think I feel like in class right now, because I think that's a very important topic, like this whole topic of Kreng Jai. So take some time to think about it. Maybe let me know if you ran into any trouble with co-workers, partners, wives, husbands, so what any kind of, issues you face with like Kreng Jai, saving face, avoiding disruption, discomfort, and so on. Because I'm always curious to share those things and also learn more. Maybe, next time I already planned something for the podcast as well. So we're moving on then to getting settled in Bangkok, what you have to think about when you get settled in Bangkok, maybe even how to find jobs and so on. That's for next time. This time, Kreng Jai. So don't be too Kreng Jai, but do understand Kreng Jai. If you have any questions, if you want anything answered for next week, let me know. Shout out in the comments, social media, via email, funkitpod@gmail.com. Until then, take care, stay safe. Sawasdee krap.